When I was a kid, our basement terrified me. I always told myself it was just an irrational fear, but looking back, maybe I had every reason to be afraid. It was a large, dimly lit space with an old, sagging L-shaped couch in the center. A wooden support column loomed behind it like a silent figure watching over the room. In front of the couch sat our bulky, outdated box TV, hooked up to our collection of video game consoles. The whole basement wrapped around in a circle, booth and table in one corner, an old bar in another, a dark doorway leading to my dad's workout room, and the worst part, the laundry room. That door always unsettled me. It was heavy, creaky, and had a nasty habit of opening on its own. My dad rented out the upstairs to an old woman named Ruth, so my family only had access to the first floor and the basement. My dad rarely came down here, so this place was mostly left to my brothers and me. But tonight I was alone, just me and my mom upstairs. My brothers were out, and my dad was at work. I hesitated at the top of the basement stairs. That door was the worst part. It wouldn't stay open unless you wedged something in front of it. It would always slowly creak shut. I swallowed my fear and went down anyway. I plopped onto the gray couch, gripping the controller, trying to lose myself in whatever game I was playing. But I couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right. The basement always made noises. The pipes groaned, the heater clicked, and the washing machine sometimes made a strange thumping sound. I was used to all of that, but then I heard something different. A dull thud from inside the laundry room. Something small hitting the floor, bouncing once, twice, then rolling to a stop. My blood turned to ice. I froze, my fingers tightening around the controller. I told myself it was nothing, but my gut screamed otherwise. I dropped the controller and sprinted up the stairs, bursting into the kitchen, my voice shaking. "Mom, someone's in the basement." My mom barely looked up from dinner. She gave me a patient but tired smile. "Honey, there's no one down there." I insisted, my words tumbling over each other. She sighed, wiped her hands on a towel, and followed me down. The basement felt even darker with her presence, like the shadows had grown bolder. She walked straight to the laundry room, flicked on the light, and peered inside. Nothing. She turned back to me, her face softening. "See? Just your imagination." She shut the door and went upstairs. I tried to believe her. I really did. I forced myself back onto the couch, gripping the controller tighter. But the unease wouldn't go away. Time passed. The basement felt colder. Then the heater kicked on with a deep, guttural humph, the sound echoing through the walls. I barely noticed until I turned my head. The laundry room door was open. I knew my mother had closed it. I had watched her do it. But now it stood open, gaping like a black mouth. I wanted to run. I wanted to scream. But I couldn't let it win. With every ounce of courage, I sprinted toward the door and slammed it shut, my hands shaking. I stood there for a second, chest heaving, heart pounding in my ears. Then I turned back toward the couch. And that's when I heard it. A voice. Low. Hoarse. Right behind me. "My God, how you've grown." My breath caught in my throat. My stomach twisted into knots so tight, I thought I'd be sick. Slowly, as if my body refused to obey, I turned around. A man sat in the booth in the corner of the basement, his head propped lazily on one fist, his gaunt face illuminated by the dim glow of the TV. His skin was sickly, his eyes hollow. His lips curled into a twisted smile. He stood crooked, hunched, slow. His bones cracked with each movement. His voice was little more than a rasp. "Your mother won't let me see you guys." The paralysis shattered. I screamed. I ran. I tore up the stairs so fast I tripped, crashing into the door. My hands fumbled, shaking, desperately locking it behind me. "Mom, there's a man down there." The second my mother saw my face, I knew she believed me. She turned pale. Her hands trembled as she grabbed the phone and dialed 911. The moments before the police arrived were a blur. I don't even remember hearing them storm in. I just remember sitting there, wrapped in a blanket, my mother holding me so tightly it hurt. Then finally the officers returned. And they weren't alone. They had him. The man. And when they brought him into the light, my mother gasped. Her knees nearly buckled. Because she knew him. He was my uncle. My mother's estranged brother. A man our family had severed all ties with. A man I had no memory of. A man I had never met until now. Because he had been in our basement. Hiding. Watching. Waiting. I later learned why my mother had cut him out of our lives. He was a monster. A child predator. A rapist. Someone my parents had fought to keep away from us at all costs. And somehow he had come back. He had been there, living in the shadows, slinking through the dark corners of our home. How long had he been there? Days? Weeks? Had he watched me while I slept? Had he listened from the darkness every time I played downstairs? I never set foot in that basement again. He went to prison for another 4 years for another crime. But now he's out, and we don't know where he is.